Welcome to the season finale edition of the Fantasy Forecheck, powered by Ram. Back-to-back winner of Motor Trend's Truck of the Year, Andy McNamara, alongside Nick Alberga. Nick, this is it, baby. We went all year. We had that big interruption, the big delay, and now we're back to finish off the Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Poll. How you doing?
Fantastic. Giving some love to Violent Gentlemen and the Vancouver Canucks retro logo. I know the Canucks fell short, everything but the kitchen sink at Thatcher Demko, who was tremendous.
Yeah.
But I truly feel like the better team won in that series. And I think hats off to, the individuals involved in the bubble situation. Toronto essentially going perfect, which I thought was outstanding too. How's it going with you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Hey, you know what? This episode, so for the Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Poll, which you can join right now, folks, still, sportsnet.ca, you can get in. It's for the final two rounds. So that's what we're going to be going through a bit today to make sure you're not just picking for the conference finals, but also really, Nick, you want to load up on the team and players that you think will win to take you through to the Stanley Cup final. So we'll get to our Ram capable picks, our lamps, DFS plays throughout the way for whatever type of fantasy hockey pool you're in. But this is really when we're picking fantasy players that are going to extend the rest of the playoffs, it's a bit of a projection, right?
It is, and I think you're right in bringing up the key there, too, that you probably want to select players who you think are going to go the furthest because it's not one but two rounds into the Stanley Cup Finals. So I think first and foremost, as we like to initiate off the top of the conversation when it comes to playoff pools in general, stick to your guns, find your guns, and then go with your guns. So if you like Dallas, go all the way with Dallas. If you like Vegas, same thing. But I think this time around, the cap isn't much of a concern as we talk forward in the 30-point cap system with the Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Pool. It's not much of a situation to deal with because there's only a few players remaining, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we'll dive into that, the specific Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Pool. You can win great prizes playing that as well if you've done the whole playoffs or you're just jumping in right now. But, Nick, let's get to some news and notes from around the National Hockey League that will have fantasy impact, not just right now, but also into next year. And we begin with the Florida Panthers' new general manager.
Yeah, I got a new GM in Sunrise. I wish there was relation to Barry Zito, the southpaw who pitched for the Oakland A's back in the day, and the nastiest curveball I've ever seen, 12-6 drop in my life. But we aren't talking baseball. We're talking about Bill Zito, comes over from the Columbus Blue Jackets. He was an assistant executive there, and could be wholesale changes here for the Panthers. Certainly with Dale Talon left on the table is something of concern, I would say. You start with Sergei Bobrovsky in between the pipes. Obviously, he's not going anywhere, but I think from a fantasy perspective, you would initiate and think a bit of a bounce back coming for Sergei Bobrovsky. I don't have much confidence in saying that, but defensively, I think that's where Bill Zito will look to in the offseason to strengthen this team a bit more. Wouldn't be shocked if they get into the free agent market, maybe trade for one of those guys. And I wonder if a top six guy goes somewhere else. I think when you look at free agents too, they possess two big ones that are, often overlooked as some of the other sexier names like Taylor Hall, but Mike Hoffman and Evgeny Dadonov, right?
Sure.
You look at those two guys. I think it's unlikely either one of those guys re-signs with the Florida Panthers. Two fantasy options I want to look at going forward. And I think the key is here, certainly with the season coming to a conclusion, it's never too early to prepare yourself for next season. Two guys you want to identify as deep sleepers, if you will, in your drafts right away with months out from the draft. Gregory Denisenko, a Russian forward, 2018 first-round pick. I project him to be in the top six for the Florida Panthers. And same goes for Owen Tippett, 2017 first-round pick, played for the Mississauga Steelheads in the Ontario Hockey League. That kid can snipe. So they might fill internally those two big-time spots lost potentially, you would think, with Mike Hoffman and Evgeny Dadonov going elsewhere here in the offseason.
Oh, and Nick, I like that. You plan ahead. You start to play. It doesn't mean that'll be your final situation because there's free agency, there's lots of things that can happen. There's trades, but at least then you're starting your notes process. And that's how you win fantasy leagues. When we look at somebody who, very intriguing fantasy option in that trade from the Maple Leafs to the Pittsburgh Penguins, Kasperi Kapanen, and his fantasy value. Now you look at where he'll likely play or could play on the Pittsburgh Penguins going forward. That's really what you got to look at for somebody who we know has the flash. It's been the consistency that kind of troubled him with the Maple Leafs.
You're right. And I think we do have to temper expectation when it comes to the fantasy value of Kasperi Kapanen. I know people are making a lot of, hey, well, Sidney Crosby's there, Evgeny Malkin's there. he's going back. I think, a change of scenery was needed for the player, but he had some good players and some really damn good players, I should say, to play with the Maple Leafs and really couldn't produce at a level that I think people sort of prognosticate. I wonder at this point in time if he's nothing more than a good streamer option coming up in the season. I think for me, at least from a fantasy perspective, he has to demonstrate a bit more consistency. I would take a flyer for now. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. We see 20 goals and 30 assists, maybe around 50 points for Kasperi Kapanen. And the way I see it right now, it's decent. And I think there's a potential of seeing some PP2 duties, in the juggernaut. We like to know as the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I wouldn't be shocked if Mike Sullivan, the head coach, starts Kasperi Kapanen in the top six, say on the top line with a guy named Sidney Crosby and Jake Gensel on the other wing. So I think there's some pretty decent value. I'm not jumping the gun yet on Kasperi Kapanen, but he's definitely on my watch list, that's for sure.
Yeah, I like what you said there with the streaming option if it's for DFS, or even, listen, if you add him as a bench depth player on your team with starter upside, that's really what you want. If you don't reach for him, if he falls to you in the draft, depending how your draft goes, mid-round type of guy, I'd be totally fine with that. With the possible upside, sure.
Yeah, I think you're looking for value, right? As we look forward here. And as you know, another big-time trade sort of came out of nowhere. Jake Allen, St. Louis Blues to the Montreal Canadiens. I'm told, by the way, Edmonton and San Jose were also involved on Jake Allen. Montreal swooped in at the end and got the goalie. I think there's actually legitimate value in this, too. And people will laugh because they say, well, Carey Price is there. He's going to play all the time. But, the rumors circulating, it could be a condensed season. Maybe we don't even start to the month of January, if you can believe it. And I think the key here for Montreal, especially, Andy, what we just saw here in the Stanley Cup playoffs, a fresh Carey Price is a scary Carey Price for the opposition. He was really, really good for Montreal. So you enter Jake Allen. I think predominantly he's going to start on the back-to-backs, but I think there's some upside, considering the numbers we saw from Jake Allen this year at 2.15, 927 and 24 appearances in the regular season, 5 appearances in the postseason, a 1.89, a 935. I think the fact that he's in a contract year certainly helps the value there. So I think there's some sneaky flyer value, waiver option value in Jake Allen. I'm not jumping to grab Jake Allen, but I wouldn't be scared to add him and look at him when he starts, especially with Claude Julien and the way that team would play defense in Montreal.
Well, certainly a top goaltending handcuff, right? Like if you're a Carey Price owner, it depends how your league is set up. If it's a 2-goalie league, 1-goalie, whatever, but certainly something to keep in mind as that handcuff. If anything happened, Montreal Canadiens certainly put themselves in a real nice position for a top-end backup. Any other pending UFA fantasy talk you want to get into before we
So that's the conversation. I wanted to piggyback off that, certainly, with the goaltending carousel to come. I don't know about you. I can't remember an offseason, a potential offseason, this hectic and chaotic when it comes to the crease. There's like 12, 13 teams who could have different goaltenders altogether. Yeah. I think, Andy, you start with the trade market. I made this joke as soon as Colorado was dealt, but I don't think it's far from the truth. How quickly until Matt Murray of the Pittsburgh Penguins is a Colorado Avalanche? I think something has to give. With all due respect to Michael Hutchinson, there wasn't depth for the Colorado Avalanche. Pavel Francouz got hurt. Philip Grubauer is always hurt. It's such a volatile position. I hate to say that about a goalie. Ben Bishop's the same way with Dallas. There's a lot of goalies who can't stay healthy. Antti Raanta with Arizona Coyotes. The list goes on and on. But I think that's the one thing of many, or some things I should say, Colorado should address here, is their goaltending. And I wonder if Matt Murray is worth a look there. Frederik Andersen, there's been whispers that he's not returning to Toronto next season, potentially dealt at some point in time here over the next couple of weeks, maybe into the offseason. And I think the writing is on the wall for Marc-Andre Fleury in Vegas. I know Vegas is in the conference.
Poor guy.
I know.
Well, not really. Guy just wins cups. Keep sloughing them off.
He makes $7 million a year. I don't feel that bad.
Well, that's true.
His agent is fantastic at tweeting. But Alan Walsh, I love that. Was such an underrated tweet. Tremendous. But I think Marc-Andre Fleury will ask for a fresh start yet again and go elsewhere. And I think there's so many teams who will line up for him. The UFA market's intriguing too. Jacob Markstrom. I don't know how sold I am that Markstrom's going to re-sign in Vancouver for a variety of reasons. Number one being Thatcher Demko, I think, proved in a small sample size, granted. I think he's ready for more time. And on top of that, they got to pay Quinn Hughes down the road. They got to pay Elias Pettersson. Financially, I'm not sure Jacob Markstrom makes sense there. Braden Holtby's a free agent. He's won a cup. Robin Lehner, right now he's a free agent, but I think knowing the track record of Vegas in the few short years we've seen them, guys they go out and get, they usually re-sign, right? Mark Stone, Max Pacioretty, head of those charts. So I think Robin Lehner is going to re-sign clearly with the whole Marc-Andre Fleury situation. Other names, Anton Khudobin with the Dallas Stars, Thomas Greiss, Cam Talbot, Mike Smith, Corey Crawford. It's going to be a dramatically different looking league in the crease, whenever next season starts. I can't believe this. It's going to be pandemonium, Andy.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun and fascinating, ready to watch how it all shakes out. All right, Nick, we're going to move into our Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Pool picks, but also look at the conference finals matchup. So we got Vegas, Dallas. I think this is going to be really interesting because you mentioned Robin Lehner, who's been an absolute stud, but he's going to get tested with that Stars offense.
Dallas is a scary team, and we're going to talk about them a lot here.
Yeah.
Trying to pinpoint our Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Pool selections. We could start with that, obviously, in the Western Conference. I'm sure you're going to pick the same player. I jumped the gun a bit, but Miro Heiskanen, all world, right, Andy?
Come on, man.
A 1 point value. Again, I wouldn't worry as much about the cap situation because there's only a few players remaining anyways, but I think Miro Heiskanen has to be 100% owned here. 21 points in 16 games. He has 5 goals, 16 assists, and I put this out on Twitter on Friday night. On potential track to be the second youngest player alongside some guy named Bobby Orr to capture the Conn Smythe Trophy.
Oh.
He's just 21. I know he's got 8 wins to go still, but Miro Heiskanen's been outstanding. He's 4 points back of Nathan McKinnon, who's no longer in the Stanley Cup playoffs for first in points. He's been incredible. So that was a shoo-in for me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And overall, folks, when you're filling it out, so you go sportsnet.ca/RAM for the Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Pool. And remember, just like last round, right, it's split into conferences. So you got 6 total forwards, 4 defensemen, 2 goalies, but you split it up amongst the 2 conferences. And then you have a RAM-capable pick for each position group where you get double the fantasy points. We'll get to our RAM-capable picks in a little bit. So I like that play there. For me, I'm going to Josh Bailey of the New York Islanders. We love the value. When we talk value play, in the system where it's ranked 1 to 4 points is the price tag. 4 is the highest, 1's the cheapest. You fill in the 30. And like you said, it's less of a worry now with fewer teams. You'll probably come in under the cap regardless.
Exactly.
But I still like it from, let's say, an ownership percentage. Josh Bailey is lower, and the guy's been just on a tear. 1 point value. Look at what he's been able to do. He's got the second most points of any forward so far still alive in the Eastern Conference, and I just really like that value there. Who do you got for the West?
There's a lot of value. I'll get to my West play since we're on Josh Bailey, my East play. I'm going to go under the radar, maybe off the board a tad. Again, as we speak right now, we don't know the status of Nikita Kucherov. We don't know about Steven Stamkos. A guy I'm waiting to wake up for Tampa, who I thought was really good and underrated all regular season long, Anthony Cirelli. Again, the points don't matter. He's a 2 point value. In these playoffs, he has just 2 goals in 13 games. I think he's overdue with a capital O. So I'm going to take a flyer on Anthony Cirelli and hope for the best. And I think this guy is way too good at hockey to struggle from an offensive standpoint the way he has here, considering how much depth Tampa has, considering how dominant they've been. So I'm going to go off the board. I'm looking at Anthony Cirelli here.
Well, and Nick, even if that's for the Sportsnet pool or for DFS, you're filling out a DraftKings roster or something like that, right? He's going to be cheaper, and it all comes down to as well, not necessarily something you want to super concern yourself with, but that ownership percentage. Yeah. So if you pick best player and everybody owns them, it's not really doing you much good, right?
Exactly.
So I like that a lot. For my West value play, I'm going to the Dallas Stars. Denis Gurianov, again, 1 point special. Like, that's the price. And look what he's been able to do. 16 point streak in the Colorado series. More than just points to multi-category contributor. 47 hits, 36 shots, as well as power play time. Again, we're looking at someone who's hot in the playoffs, who's cheap, and isn't going to be owned a whole lot. I'm going with him.
I like that value. I call him Dennis Skorianov because all he does is score goals. He's a stud and prorated over 82 games this year. I was calculating the numbers. He's around 32 goals. So there's a lot of value in that player. Speaking of that series, speaking of value, I love these playoffs for a variety of reasons. I know it's different here in the bubble format, but all the young defensemen making strides. My word, Shea Theodore. And I have to give us credit on this show. I think in February we started pumping his Jets, maybe late January. This guy has been on the radar for a long period of time. Shea Theodore, a 2 point value, leads the Vegas Golden Knights, a team that possesses the names of Max Pacioretty, Jonathan Marchessault, Mark Stone, and it's Shea Theodore. Scores the winner against Vancouver in Game 7. He has 16 points. Since January 1st, the splits are surreal, especially for a young defenseman. 43 games, 14 goals, 25 assists, 39 points. You prorate that over 82, you're looking almost a 30-goal score from the back end. Take your pick. Heiskanen, Theodore, for RAM-capable pick. I would contemplate both those guys because they're on fire right now, Andy.
Absolutely love it. And my other value play going to the Tampa Bay Lightning, Andre Palat. And it was a bit streaky, but really came on, right? When you look, you had 0 goals in his first 9 playoff games, caught fire against the Bruins 5 times, 5 goals in his last 4 games. And he adds in the odd hit, takes a lot of shots. Seems like a really good value play for me, again, at that cheapest rate of 1 on what is a pretty loaded Tampa Bay offense.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. And let's get to our goaltenders, Andy.
Yeah.
Andrei Vasilevskiy. I think we're both in agreement here.
Let's go.
And again, this is the key, right? You're hoping for a shutout. It's more likely to happen, we'll say, in an Islanders-Tampa series than the other way. I think the Western Conference Final is going to be fire wagon hockey. I think it's going to be open for the most part, especially the way Dallas is scoring goals, especially the way we know Vegas can score goals. I'm more inclined to think a guy like Vasilevskiy could squeak in a shutout or two. So I think it's pretty mutual here in Andrei Vasilevskiy. Again, the 4-point value. But we're both picking him for our goalie selection and a RAM-capable pick at that, just because we both, I believe, like the Lightning to go far. We think Tampa's really, really good. And I think Vasilevskiy right now is really on top of his game, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. Like you look at the stats, right? 1.91 goals against, 931 save percentage. And Nick, that's exactly where my head was at. Yeah. While Robin Lehner has been awesome, who's more likely to have the better series when it comes to stats, when it comes to fantasy points? Yeah, there's going to be a better shot at getting that shutout or really keeping it low scoring, where as good as Robin Lehner's been, there could be a lot of goals the other way too, right?
Vasilevskiy started every game. There isn't a chance Curtis McElhinney is starting. I think you look at Vegas, well, there's no doubt Robin Lehner is their guy. You could easily see Marc-Andre Fleury in that series. Dallas, Anton Khudobin's probably going to start, but Ben Bishop, if he's healthy enough, is likely going to play in that series too. The Islanders could easily go to Thomas Greiss or Semyon Varlamov. So I think I thought from that perspective too. And I think here again, to stress, it's not 1 but 2 rounds, the conference finals and the Stanley Cup final. When we look at the Sportsnet fantasy hockey pool, and I have Tampa winning my Stanley Cup. So ultimately 8 wins and 16 points right there.
I'm with you, man. It's which goalie you think is going to advance and go to the Cup final and play well ultimately in there. All right, Nick. So we got Vasilevskiy as our one of our RAM-capable picks. Who's your other one you want to highlight?
Yeah, so it's pretty simple again, and we talked about Heiskanen and Theodore. Take your pick on in terms of defense, and I went off the board with my forward. I'm going to go with little Joel Pavelski, a 1-point value if you care. This guy's been there so many times. I think a wonderful addition by Jim Nill. It was a struggle in the regular season, but he's really picked up his play. Has 8 goals in 16 games, 12 points overall here for Dallas. Being utilized a lot by Rick Bowness, has a lot of trust in this veteran player, and I think he can smell that cup. At least he can smell a Stanley Cup final. And for a player who's sniffed it so many times and not gotten over that hurdle, I think you look at Joe Pavelski, a very motivated player. So I like him, and I'll throw the name Alex Radulov out there as well. I really like Dallas going forward. As I said last show, it stings from, our perspective of our producer, one of our producers. He's a big-time Drew. Shout out to him, big-time Colorado Avalanche fan. But at least I did call Dallas in the upset there.
Yes, you did. You did last show. Absolutely. My RAM-capable pick, I'm going to go to Tampa Bay and Braden Point, right?
Nice.
Again, this is a case where if somebody with a low fantasy cost is good and you feel comfortable, sure, but this is where you go for star power, right? Yep. And Braden Point heads into the Eastern Conference Final, 6-game point streak. We know he can be aggressive on the forecheck, multiple category guy again, and that's what you can look at. The guy's scoring points, but is also contributing in multiple categories. That's what I really like. So I'm going to bet on that the hot streak continues and that the Tampa Bay Lightning also continue to the Stanley Cup Final. So I'll go Braden Point.
I like it, and certainly I think, as I talked about earlier, I know we're just halfway through, seemingly, if you can believe it. It's been so long here in the bubble, but you got to start contemplating Conn Smythe projections, and I think Braden Point is near or at atop my list when it comes to Tampa. Yeah. He's been terrific all world, and just one of those guys you love to muck and grind in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Just brings it in so many different facets of the game. And I think it's easy to forget. Tampa's been doing this all without Steven Stamkos.
That's it. That's it. And that's why, again, you take a star like Stamkos out, who's going to fill the void?
Exactly.
And that's where opportunity equals success in fantasy sports, Nick.
Put it on a shirt. Put it on a shirt already. Come on.
I should. That's great. Maybe our buddies at Homage, eh?
Yeah.
At Homage. Yeah, damn it. Okay. Should probably get their name right if I want something free, huh?
We got the bleep sound on this show. Yeah, I know. Maybe they're watching right now. We're going to have everything free.
Anyway, Nick, anything else you want to add before we sign off for the season on the Sportsnet, for the Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Pool?
No, I'd like to thank all our listeners and everybody who's watched and supported us all season long, even the people who have chirped me in the box down
haters
below on YouTube. I love you all. So stay well during these difficult times. It's been so great having hockey back, and I can't wait for next season.
Absolutely, man. Me too. So for everybody on the show, Nick, get us on Twitter, at the Golden Muzzy, at AndyMC81, and we'll see you next season, I guess.
Yes.